You're stuck, Dave. You're stuck, Dave. I don't know. Can you all hear Dave? If not, y'all let me know. Can y'all hear him? Those who's listening, can you all hear Dave? Outsider, can you hear Dave? Okay, yeah, he's froze. There you go. You're better. There you go. You're good
Rawhide, I
now.
don't know what was going on with that, man. I mean, the conversation was going just fine until I hit start stream, and apologies everybody for that. But hey, shout out to everybody in the chat. Thanks for sticking with me. Will I edit this out on the replay? Probably not. I don't spend too much time on this thing, but shout out to everybody, including Bodie. Hey, don't worry about it. Appreciate your support as always. Means a lot. And I also appreciate you, Rawhide, for jumping on my stream today. You know, I joined you on Saturday, and we got a lot to talk about. How are you doing this Monday?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, we do got a lot to talk about.
Man, no doubt. No doubt. So I want to give a quick shout out to Kevin Borba over at Locked On Buffs. He had me on today to record an episode that will be shared out tomorrow. And some of the questions that he was asking me kind of got me thinking about, okay, what are my expectations for this team? How can we look at history to determine what are probably some likely scenarios that will happen with this team? And talk a little bit about coach speak, because yeah, maybe we just open with that first, Rawhide, is that, there's some nuance with this and in my expectations for the Buffs, just like there is with any other team that I'm following. For instance, let's take a look at this year, Sean Payton and my Denver Broncos. We missed out on the playoffs for the first, not for the first time, but again, and we haven't made it since 2015, okay? So it's been a long time, but he came in here saying, hey, this team should make the playoffs, okay? Now, even though I only had them winning 6 games, he absolutely needs to say that, because I'm going to be pissed off if the standard coming from the coach is not, this needs to be a winning team, this needs to be a playoff contending team. And that's just not going to do any good for the locker room, right? If you set expectations incredibly low. So when we hear Coach Prime talk about the expectation, the extremely high standard that he has for this program, that he has for this team, that needs to be the topic. Like, yes, we need to be contending for the conference title. We need to be aiming to get ourselves in that college football playoff. That absolutely needs to be the goal this next year. But I want to talk a little bit about, how do you dissect coach speak a little bit and understand the nuance between what the coach is saying versus like how we as fans should look at this season going into 2024. I guess before I go on my little rant, Rawhide, do you have any thoughts right now on like coach speak and understanding that like from a fan's point of view?
Right. I think.
Oh no. I just lost Rawhide. He must have clicked out of this quickly. But I'll get to some of your comments while we're waiting for Raw to come back up here. Eric Morse saying, wins is my only expectation. And that's what I love. All right, here he is.
Oh, I don't know what happened, man. Something's going on with StreamYard today. But to answer your question, man, I think coaches, for the most part, I think their audience that they're talking to, I think they assume that they have a particular level of no or expectation as far as how things normally go. So when he's talking to the team, bro, it is what it is, right? You're gonna tell your team we're trying to win a national championship, we're trying to make it to the playoff. That's what you're gonna tell those guys,
Yes.
right? Now, when I watch him, right, accept the Sports Illustrated award, right, for one of those influential except the Sports Illustrated woman I'm going to work right. Now, I listened to him there, right? That's more of a serious setting. So I'm going to pay a closer attention in what he says there. And, like he made the statement that what I'm saying, we're going to get Peggy to a bowl game. And I think we all understand what that encompasses, right? A minimum of 6 wins. So I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I take that a lot more serious. And I think he was on another show or talking with somebody, and he was talking about how he's going to get Peggy to a bowl. If I hear an announcer ask him or like Skip Bayless, he say, "Hey, you think you got a team to compete for the playoffs?" He's not going to say no.
Right.
So when he
Thank
said
you.
right, no, he's going to say, "Yeah, that's the plan. We're going to try to make it to the playoffs." Right.
Yeah.
So I don't take that serious. I take that as, I mean, what else should you say?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think sometimes as fans, right, and I think him and Bucky, right, because Bucky did make a statement at the end of the season. I think they come from a perspective of, come on, guys, y'all should know, y'all should kind of understand how this stuff works, right? Get up off me. We never said we was going 10, saying 12-0.
Right. Right. I think that's very well said. And I think even with the winning that we had this past year to start out the season, Coach Prime, he said some things even at the beginning of that lets you know, like, hey, he understands that this is a work in progress, saying, hey, I need 7, 8 more dogs. I think based on our conversation this Saturday regarding the pyramid, I don't think we're too far off from how Coach Prime sees the roster. That's just how I
Right.
see it,
Hmm.
And I think it's important for us as fans to take a look at what have some other really successful coaches that have been through rebuilds. What has this process from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 look like? And sometimes I feel like as fans, we can set the expectation so high that we don't allow these guys to enjoy any success that they have. And sometimes you see this happening with, like, sometimes we have LSU fans in here, okay, Rawhide, and they're talking about, hey, if Brian Kelly only wins another 9, 10 games this next year, he's going to be on the hot seat. Man, this doesn't allow, any of these players to have, I think, any sort of satisfaction or recognition for
Hmm.
the winning that they're contributing to. And I think that the perspective is just all that I'm really wanting us to hold this year. Like, I think there's definitely scenarios where we win the Big 12. Totally. But if we're setting the expectation as all fans saying, hey, that's what needs to happen. If we have an 8-win season and we don't reach that title game, like, are we just going to crap on the success that was achieved this year? I don't want that to happen.
Oh man, I've been preaching that and preaching that and preaching I mean, I think, saying let's temper some expectations, right? They got enough pressure on them what I'm saying, without us as fans adding to the pressure. And I think with this fan base in particular, especially how we all talk about the Colorado Buffaloes, there has been this particular type of divide that makes fans look at us like, let's say for instance, like you take a person like me.
Mhm. Oh, no. Oh, no. I seem to have lost Rawhide again. I hope he's okay. Um, give him a second on here. He's
Oh my
popping back up.
god, I'm sorry, bro. But you get an individual like me, and I may say that I'm looking for a 2 to 3 game improvement, which would be 6 or 7 wins. And I think you get some fans and they hear that and they think that they can't win over 7. I believe of those that say this, they say they can't win over 7 games. So if they won 9 games, they're like, "Oh, see, you didn't believe they can win 9." It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact whether we believe they can win 9, but we set an expectation at. I set an expectation particularly at 6 or 7. You see what I'm saying? Anything over that, we all, not the ones that say 10-0, or I mean 12-0, 10-2, 9-3. I say 6-7. I think we all should be jumping for joy because they were successful. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just don't want the people to rain on the parade, right? If they win 6 or 7, because you all going to hear me again say A+. Then you'll get mad at me. you feel me? I mean, I say,
right.
they win 6 or 7 games. Y'all come on, people come on the show. I'm talking to you, and then I say, yeah, I give Coach Prime an A+ for the season. First thing I do, how did you give him an A+? They should have won that. I'm like, bro, come on, man, stop it with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's just my take on it.
Facts. And it's not about, again, like, we all have way different predictions on what we are projecting for the win total to be this year. I think the thing that can just upset me a little bit is sometimes whether you're on one end of the spectrum, then you're like letting everybody know they're just an idiot for their take. Or if like, that's what I don't get. That's what I don't get. So let's take a look at some of these coaches that have been through this process. And this isn't just taking over. This isn't Dan Lanning taking over Oregon. Okay. It's nothing like that. These are coaches taking over dead in the water programs that are not destinations at the time, and then building them into really powerful college football programs. So Rawhide and I, we're going to run through a few of these and then we'll start discussing them. But let's go ahead and start with Raw. One of the guys that you brought up, I thought that this was really great, is Lance Leipold over at Kansas, guys. We see his first year taking over Kansas, and Kansas is not a football school, kind of at this point, right? 2-10. Then that second year takes a 4-win jump to 6-7. And then in 2023, we see them take another 3-game jump. So in 2 years, they go from a 2-win team to a 9-win team. That's a 7-game improvement over 2 seasons. I think that's great. When we take a look at, who should I bring up next? Matt Rule. Let's take a look at Matt Rule, okay? He's taken over both Temple and Baylor. We'll run through these, okay? 2-10, first year at Temple. 6-6, second year. And then his third year at Temple, when things really started going well, 10-4. Wow. And then another 10-win season after that. So we see another 8-game jump in the span of 2 years. Then at Baylor, coming out of all that stuff with Art Briles, right? 1-11 his first year at Baylor, taking a 6-win jump in 2018, going 7-6. And then by year 3, you see this team is firing on all cylinders, finishing 11-3. That's fantastic stuff. We could even take a look at, Pete Carroll. This is an interesting standpoint because USC, I think, was a 5-win team in the year 2000. And Pete Carroll took over that team, of course, filled with talent, go 6-6, a 1-game improvement, but then you see a nice 5-game jump in 2002. Of course, USC was paying their players, so it makes and it's USC, so it makes it easier to kind of have a quicker jump. But this is something where you see that first year is never really as strong as what these programs become 2-3 years down the line. And I guess I'll leave with 2 more. Let's take a look at Florida State and Mike Norvell. In that COVID year, they go 3-6. That team was absolutely terrible in 2020. They could have very well finished 3-9, but then you see the building starts to happen. A 2-win improvement in 2021, going to 5-7, and then you saw in 2022 going 10-3, and then this past year going 13-0, and then getting blown out for that 1 loss against Georgia. And lastly, I guess, we've talked about Jed Fish before, so I'm going to skip over him. But let's talk about one of the best coaches, in my opinion, in college football right now is Steve Sarkisian taking over Texas. another 5-7 year for for Texas. That year, his first year there, we saw a 3-game improvement in 2022, and then they finished this year 12-2, a college football playoff team. And so, like, normally when it comes to a lot of these programs, it really is kind of a 2-year process before you kind of hit that high expectation mark. And so when I'm looking at the Colorado Buffaloes this year, I definitely think like, hey, if you're looking at this thing on a 2-year plan, I guess that depends on what happens at quarterback, here in a couple of seasons. If, like, for instance, Lane Kiffin in 2022, they kind of had a down year where they went from 10 wins to 8 wins, but then they went back to 10 wins this year. That happens when you have turnover. But I think that you'll see a substantial improvement. I would say that probably the likely range of scenarios would be somewhere between a 2 and 6 game improvement, like somewhere within that range, or like a 3 to 5 win improvement, right? So you're going from 4 wins to either 7 wins or like 9 wins, I guess, if that's where I got them. I'm the optimist, so I'm gonna have them kind of towards the top of that projection. But what were your thoughts and takeaways going through looking at some of this history when it comes to coaches rebuilding not just any kind of program, but dead in the water programs?
Right. And I guess I would look at, I think you mentioned, you mentioned Florida State, and I think you mentioned Florida State, like, for example. See, I look at, a Florida State rebuild is easier than a Colorado rebuild. And I think you touched on it earlier when you talked.
Oh no, we lost Raw again. I hope it's not me. I wonder if it's him. But I am starring a couple of your chats now. I'm sorry, Raw. Is it me? Am I just kicking you out on accident?
I don't know. It must be StreamYard, because it messed with you, now it's messing with me. But anyway,
okay.
As I can't. But Florida State, that's an easier build, right? Now that was Baylor and Baylor. Who else was it? Temple. Now those right there was a difficult. Baylor's a little bit better than Colorado, but that's why I kind of lean on Kansas all the time, because we all know Kansas is a college school, right? They don't care anything about football, or once upon a time they didn't. And it's very difficult to get players there. So I love looking at Kansas and rebuilding that and going, 2, 6, 9.
Yes.
I think that's the normal progression, right? And I think and honestly, let's be honest, I think he has overachieved there at Kansas. So I kind of think Colorado's the same way. You're looking at, 4, you're looking at, with me, 2 to 3, then you're looking at, the next season, 9 or more. If they get the 9 or more this season, it's a good thing. But what I'm saying, expectation wise, and, the garnering of emotions, what I'm saying, you should be happy with a 6 to 7 win increase, looking at the history with these other programs. I mean, you telling me a Florida State, it takes you 3 years to win the conference at Florida State? I mean, that says a lot. That history and that name carries a lot of weight. It's not like you having to pull out a map and show kids where Colorado is. Florida State is known. You feel what I'm saying? So,
right.
Yeah, I just think I think that's normal, and I think that's why we should temper the expectations. Is the history says that it's going to take you about 3 years really to hit the ground running. And remember this too: these other universities that you mentioned, all but the Kansas one and the Temple one, bro, they have been receiving good players year in and year out anyway. Yes. So if a coach comes in there, right, he ain't gotta just rip the studs out. You know what I'm saying? Pull the foundation up. I mean, bro, they've been getting some 4 stars and some good quality 3 stars for years during the bad time. So that's, what I'm saying, I think that's the perspective that people got to look at. So the guys that's still there, that they are creating depth. You see what I'm saying? And you got the depth. You know what I'm saying? So and that's what's required to be good. And I think that's really why those guys on, you know what I'm saying, I hate to say it, the Cover 3 podcast, is why they had so much pushback against Colorado. They didn't believe they had any depth.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess we've talked about this 1,000 times, but again, I just overestimated where our line play was at. That was really just, I didn't realize we were starting from ground zero with both of those lines. And I think like right now, I think that we're making a substantial talent jump going into this year than where we were at last year. We got more depth. I think, again, the pyramid shows, I mean, pretty much the majority of our impact players, right, should be at that, power 4 average level or above. We do have some that we still graded as below average, even though I'll fight you. I'll fight you on one of those players. But yeah, I think right now we can get so excited sometimes, and we believe in these players so much that sometimes we can lose sight of the fact that I still feel like right now this rebuild is well ahead of schedule of where it would be with a lot of different coaches who are coming over here to take over the job. And I wouldn't be surprised again to see another substantial jump in win total, but I don't know if you're going to see something about, like, I was looking at Tulane, for instance, you know how they went from 2 wins to 12 wins, Cotton Bowl champions, all that. Well, I think their coach, Fritz, I think he was there 4 or 5 years prior to that 2-win season. So he had been there quite a while, a long time to build a culture. And yeah, it can take a while to see the results sometimes of those things. So I think like with where Coach Prime is at right now, with instilling that and bringing in talent, this whole thing is still very much accelerated. And that's why I won't leave out the possibility, because I feel like this thing is accelerated. I won't leave the possibility out of us winning the conference next year. I think that's great. But what I think I am trying to show is that usually it takes a couple years before you start to hit the stride, getting into that conversation. So any last thoughts on this, or do you want to transition over to taking a look at the pyramid again?
No. I think we pretty much agree on what's the expectations and how long it takes to really to build a decent program. I can go back and forth with people about that all day, but I mean, I think history is on our side on that. Catching lightning in the bottle. TCU called lightning in the bottle, right? When they made the playoff, that's lightning in the bottle. But then you saw immediately the next year that they fell back to earth. So, that happens.
No. And I will comment on this too. I saw Mr. Maurice, I think I had one of your other ones, going overboard about winning is part of being a fan. Let fans be fans. And I totally agree. How about we let fans be fans and fan out? All fan bases do it. Everyone doesn't need to be objective. And I'm not even saying that. I think what I'm saying is that let fans be fans, but to the point where you're not satisfied with any result other than a national championship or even a conference championship. There's 4 teams right now that can win a conference in Power 4 college football. I forget how many G5 conferences there are now. Is that 6 or 5, I guess, with the consolidation of the Pac-2 or whatever. But then that's 9 teams and 134 out of 134. I am not going to, have that as the only threshold of being satisfied as a fan when it comes to college football. There's too many teams.
Yeah. I agree with everything you're saying right now. I think the biggest thing, I agree with man. Our fans, fans need to fan out, me included, right? But what I'm saying is, though, the problem comes when fans don't listen, and they think because you don't think they're going to win the national championship that you're not on their side. I guess that's what I'm saying. That's the crazy part, really, right? That's what's insane about it. Like, oh my, what I'm saying, and we got to admit, a lot of them is cultish and super. Well, I get that, and that's what you kind of fall into. You get that label that you're a super or you're a cult person when it's like, bro, I don't believe they're gonna win. I don't believe they're going 12-0, bro. I think that's insane. But what I'm saying, and then they just totally discredit why you think that is.
But to bring it full circle, the expectation in the building absolutely needs to be 12-0.
Oh,
So again,
yes.
yeah, it's like understanding that nuance. Yes.
Right. That's coach speak. Right. That's what you need to be telling your players. We're going to win every ball game because that's the
Yeah.
goal. Yeah, that's the
Yes.
goal.
And I want us to win every ball game. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not one of those fans that wants to see you to lose so I can be right in a sense. But hey, let's talk about this pyramid, okay? This was
All
a
right.
lot of fun. I think it was great. I'm having trouble sharing it for some reason, but I mean, y'all know what it looks like at this point. But let's just start off here, man. We had Shane Cokes listed as an average college football player. Sean is in here wondering, man, why do you love Shane Cokes? I don't know if I love Shane Cokes, but I love him more than a lot of people wanted to give him credit for. And I thought for playing out of position last year, he was one of our better defensive linemen. And who knows how he'll play at the defensive end position this year? I think he'll do better. But the man was not trash like so many of us want to go say about a player that might have underperformed to certain expectation. The man was not trash, and he was probably the only guy last year that graded out somewhat at an average rating against the run last year, which was by far our biggest issue on defense. So I'll let Rawhide come back here in a minute. It looks like he got kicked out yet again. But I think again, like that's just something that I'm trying to get out of this exercise is that there are some players that, hey, maybe we have too high of expectation for them and maybe they don't reach that, and that's totally fine. But to just say like, you know, you either love or hate a guy, he's either trash or amazing. There's a lot of in between, especially I think for a lot of the players that we have on the roster right now.
Right. Yeah, I thought about that. You asked me earlier, did I think about this pyramid, right? And how I rated or how we rated these players.
Yeah.
And did I have any thoughts on it, changes? Yeah, I did. I thought about it for a second. I did think about it. And I had to say I was extremely too lenient. So
God.
I mean, I was extremely too lenient. I think what people don't. First off, I understand that people don't know the definition of elite, right? So I get that. So right, elite, meaning that elite guys, superior abilities above your peers. Dave, did I lose you? I think you're sticking there. It must be StreamYard because you sticking too. But you know that's the key word in elite. It doesn't say that you have better. You have better abilities. It uses the term superior. Okay, to that's people who up for the Heisman Trophy. If you're not up for the Heisman Trophy or a Buckets Award, or if you're not up for those awards, then you're not elite. I don't know how else to say it. In NBA, elite players are MVP candidates. Those are elite players, right? Above average, right? Above average should be AP All American. They give you three teams. They give you first, second, and third team. If you're not first, second, or third team AP All American, you're not above average. You're not. Now, I mean, I'm not even. I won't even. That's why I said I was too nice. I'm not even going to entertain the conversation about being above average if you're not an AP All American, first, second, or third team. That is at least what's that? 22 times 3. That's 66 players in FBS. That's above average. If you parallel that with the NBA, right? You are an above average player if you're generally an all-star. I think that's simple. Above average player, all-star, right? NBA all-star. Now,
okay,
mid to average, I think just like in the NBA, right? If you're not an all-star, right? You're an average player. You know, some a little bit better than others, but generally speaking, you're an average player. Your Denver Nuggets, what's his name? Your Porter, right? He's an average player.
Michael Porter.
Yeah, he's an average player, bro. He's not an all-star guy. So that's mid to average. Now below average, bro. I don't know how to say this. I mean, below average. You know what I'm saying? My man, Patrick Beverly. He's a journeyman. He's on this team, that team, this team, that team. You know what I'm saying? He's not good enough to be a mainstay. That's below average. And then you got Thanos Antetokounmpo. That's Giannis' brother. He's trash. I don't get how. I don't get how. Granted, I know you won't play. Not you, but the impersonal you. I know people want their players to be better than what they are. And I know a lot of people gonna make the argument, well, it's so many people. Guys, do you know? I mean, it's no different than the star system. How many people, how many kids do you think play high school football?
Oh man. I mean, tens of
100,000?
thousands.
There you go. Tens of thousands, bro. There's only like 30 or 45 star guys. There's only what I mean, 4 star. How many 4 star guys is it? 250 maybe? 254 stars. And
Yeah,
we're talking
sometimes
about
less than that.
we're talking about tens of thousands football players that play in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
it's the same. Right? If you're not an AP All American, bro, I'm sorry, you're not above average. And just like you know what I'm saying, when we're making the rules or the college football committee made rules, right, for the Final Four playoffs, there are exceptions, i.e., like, hey, for instance, if you lose your main player, right, that's going to have an effect. There are 1 or 2 rules that I look at, right, that I can put a freshman in above average, right, because
Mm-hmm.
the expectations for the freshman is low.
Mm-hmm.
If you achieve starting.
Oh no. Oh Lord. But I think I'm getting what Rawhide is trying to say here. And I got an interesting follow-up here when he's
There you go.
finished.
There you go. So if you're a starter, then I may give you an exception. And I heard you mention about me using their age against them, right? Because if you are a 4-year player, right, and you're
Mhm.
an AP guy, you're going to the NFL.
Right.
So simply by definition and what you're doing, you're telling me that you're not above average because you're not going to pass up being a first, second, and third round player to go back to school to play a 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not going
Yes.
to do that. So to me, that's by definition average. Anyway, what was your question? What's your question?
So I guess my follow-up, okay. It's good to know that you've thought a little bit different about this pyramid. I have too. But I want to ask you a question that I kind of asked myself yesterday on my stream, which was, okay, if we're going to contend for a conference title this year, who are some of the key players that you have on your mind that need to elevate themselves above the tiers that you currently have them in?
Okay, what are you trying to achieve, though?
Like, what do you mean by that?
You're saying that what?
Let's say we reach 9-10 wins, something like
okay,
that.
Okay. In order to reach 9-10 wins, see, I'm under the belief, if you listen to how I just broke that down, most teams are generally comprised of mid players anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's not necessarily even about, you know what I'm saying, the elevation. You need to just play well. You need to play up to expectation, meaning that the offensive line need to play, right? They need to play an average game and have good continuity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Most offensive lines are average, bro. And they are comprised of average players, bro. That's
Yes.
most of them.
Yes.
Again, you feel me?
Yes.
Yes. Remember this. I did a show. I use wide receivers for an example, bro. 30. I think the average was like, what was the average? Like 30, 32. 32 wide receivers get drafted. 32. That's including the 7th round. And people crying about my list here. Bro, it's only 32. The average is like 32. So the question is 1 through 7 rounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many think offensive linemen go to the league every year? I hadn't looked it up. I mean, I can look it up real quick, but I'm sure it's around about the same amount about with wide receivers.
Yeah.
So if you're an NFL guy, that even pyramid wise, they're stricter than me. Think about that. They're stricter than me.
Yes.
You feel me? So anyway, no, they just need to be what they are, but they need to play well together, and they also need to be well coached together. They got to make sure, and this team guy has to ensure that they're not beating themselves, kind of Bill Belichick-ian. Not a lot of turnovers, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because people they're gonna have mistakes. They're gonna have some mistakes, but because they're a
Mhm.
new team, and it's gonna take them a second. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying, to get in the groove. But
Mhm.
I don't necessarily think a level of play needs to be elevated. I think they need to just play. They need to maximize where they're at.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense. So, uh, this brings me to an interesting question. And I'm not trying to put you in a corner, Rawhide. I'm
No, you
not
good.
trying to
You good.
set
You
you
good.
up. Okay.
You good. You
But
good.
if I remember, I think you had 7 wins for this team, 6 or
Yeah,
7
something
wins,
like
right?
that.
Okay.
Right. Hmm.
So is what you're saying, we have enough talent to contend for the conference championship. What's going to be holding this team back is going to be coaching.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that. But again, I've said before and I'll say it again. I don't have to look at anything. I don't care. Forget Colorado. Let's take Colorado. Let's throw them away.
Mhm.
If I got Team A, that
Oh, no. Oh, no. Thanks for your patience today, guys. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard.
yeah. But if I got Team A and they came in, wiped the slate clean, built the team up right, and they got good play. They got one or two good players, right? I mean,
Mhm.
extremely good players, right? And they just coming off a 4-8 season. But the team is on a upward projection.
Yes.
Okay. I don't care who the team is. I don't need to see your players. I don't need to see who they play against. I'm saying though, if you meet that standard, the goal should be 2 to 3 wins increase.
Yes.
So my prediction has little to nothing to do with the players. It has everything to do with an expectation from a program that's on the uptick.
Got you. Okay.
You follow me? I don't care who
Yes.
the team is. You win 4 games, you on the uptick. Because think about this. Essentially, that's why Jimbo Fisher got fired. Jimbo Fisher got fired not because they had bad losing seasons, but because they felt like the program was at a standstill. It wasn't moving in the right
Right.
direction. That's why he got fired. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
because the sheer fact of how well he recruited is what kept him on for so long, including that big
Mhm.
contract.
Mhm.
Because I know a lot of people don't really pay attention, but if you go watch Texas A&M boards or if you go watch their creators, you'll hear them say, and you've been paying attention, you would have heard them say, well, the reason why Jimbo's better than Kevin Sumlin is because he's recruiting on a higher level. So they see the progression of it, and then they got tiring. You couldn't hang your hat on that no more. They looking for you to do better, or they're looking for you to do more, and he wasn't doing that, so they fired him.
Right.
Bro, this is just college football. This is how this stuff works.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. I more so understand how you're basing your record prediction now. Okay. So to make sure that I'm understanding, it's more just on the normal trajectory you see from programs, such as some of the stuff that we looked at earlier today, rather than going into the specifics of position by position or player by player. All of that. Okay. I understand you now. This is very helpful. Um, okay.
Let me
Yeah.
add something to that. Let me add something to that. Because even in that thought process, what I just explained, generally, if you're on an upper projection, all that position groups and all that stuff you're going through, that has been satisfied because you are going in that you're going in that direction. You see what I'm saying? So it's
Yes.
all encompassing. It's all encompassing. You know what I mean? So I I don't. Okay. Do what do you have a problem with how I just explained that, or what is it that you would question about that?
I don't think I have a problem with it. I think that kind of my initial question was like, give me a second. So kind of how I looked at things yesterday, or with this pyramid on Saturday was, okay, like this is this pyramid that we have set up for 7 wins. This is kind of how we organize things. So the way that I look at it is like, okay, if we're going to exceed that, we're going to need players who are playing better than where we have them currently rated as. So I think like what I'm trying to think about or understand, but now I understand that it's kind of out of the equation for you in a sense, because it's not based on specific players. But like for instance, if our defense is going to be national average, which I think would be freaking fantastic, I think that would be awesome. I need Cormani McLean to take a leap this year. I need somebody to step up alongside Chidozie Nwankwo and elevate themselves from below average to average, that type of thing. I need BJ Green playing above average, right? Like those types of things. And so that was one of the questions, how I originally wanted to phrase this question of, you know, if we're going to, lost Raw again. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. Give him a second here.
StreamYard, bro. It's StreamYard got to be.
Yeah, it's all right, man. It was messing with my other recording earlier today too. So, but yeah, like I'm interested to hear, and we don't necessarily need to tie it to better win total this year, that their performance or improvement is tied to win total. But I'm curious to hear from you, like who on that pyramid do you feel like has the best odds or chances, or what you're expecting for a guy to develop, you know, to that next tier? Is there anybody that you're really hoping can take a jump that might impact the football team in a positive way more than expected?
Yeah, the true freshman. I think the true freshman, if I guess since you're putting it this way, if they would pop, then I think you have that ability to overachieve, I would say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, do me one favor. Can you highlight Sean's? It's not really about Sean, but
I was just about to star that. So
okay,
we're on the
same
page.
Here we go. Yeah. So, and I think this is what we talked about at the beginning of the show. All right.
Yeah.
You got a fan base. They're talking about, will you eat your words if they win more than seven? Right. No, that's not even the point.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? See, they're
this is what we're talking about.
This is exactly what we're talking about right here. You see what I'm saying? This is exactly what we're talking about. Right. Understand, me and Dave want them to go 12-0. But, you know, my expectation is 7, which is good. But I'm also jumping for joy if they win 9. You see what I'm saying? So I think Sean encompasses the entire point that we made, and that's why I wanted you to highlight that. But rolling back to what you asked me, yes, I'm looking for the freshman. I think if because I'm a firm believer in this. For the most part, you are who you are 3 years in the game, bro. So whoever they got 3 years in the game, they are they are who they are, right? They are. It is what it is. But I think you get a lot of growth from your true freshman. But that's also going to be a reflection on the type of coaching that they receive. You see what I'm saying? So, but I don't necessarily. Let's say, for instance, like I got them. Let's say I may have them at 7, right? And let's say they win 9. Okay.
Yeah.
What I thought, if they win 9 or more, this is what I think. See, I'm totally against what I hear a lot of people say. They're not going to pass the ball much at all. I mean, in comparison to what is put out in the metaverse, the passing yards will not be what people expect them to be if they're going to win 9 or more ball games. They're going to be a well-rounded. They're going to play complementary football.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that's how I feel. Because let's just be honest about it. Let's just be straight up honest about it. They were the worst defense in the world.
Yes. Right. And we won 4 games.
Right. So who did they get, right? Who did they get to make you say, okay, we're not 130, we're now 65. And 65 is difficult.
Yes. I would say for that to happen, I think our edge room has improved quite a bit. And we at least got one interior defensive lineman that I feel like we can rely on compared to 0 from the year before. So is that enough with other young guys like true freshmen like Cormani, Jaden Milner-Jones, those types of guys? Yeah, making up for that? I don't know. But I would say that probably most fans would think that the edge group is the most improved group this year on the defense.
Okay. Now, that being said, let's think about people need to think about some of the better defenses, right, in college football. And then you ask yourself, does Colorado possess that?
Oh no.
That's what you gotta ask yourself, guy.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
You disappeared for a second. I hope
Did
you
I?
don't go.
No, I'm here. You can't hear me? I'm here, bro. I'm here.
No, we can hear you, but oh no, you. There you go.
Yeah, so you have to ask yourself that question. Right. Let's take UCLA, right? I don't bro, what's that name? Latu? Bro, they're talking about him the second or third edge guy off the board.
Yeah.
Right. They got do they have one of those? Second or third edge guy off the board.
No, we don't have one of those guys.
Exactly. That's my you're making my point, Dave. Bro, you keep making my point. I don't understand bro, but this is how it works though. It blows me away. You can play good team defense, right? But now you're talking about people that have been in systems for a year in, year out, 3 years in the system.
No doubt. No doubt.
Okay, do they check that box, Dave?
We don't have anybody in the edge room that checks that box.
No.
But we do have
in the same system. Yeah. He only been coaching there a year, so it's impossible to be that.
Yep. And this is why I wanted to highlight Al-Farouq's comment. Since CU is already good at the most important position, quarterback, the biggest leap for CU will be coaching, not players. I think that this is something that we need to bring up more. I pray to God Phil Lowenholt can coach better than Bill O'Boyle. I pray to God that's the case. That's my expectation. We'll see what happens with Rob Livingston. Are you really going to get much different of a result than what we saw with Charles Kelly if he had stuck around? Man, I don't really know. We'll see if there's improvement on the defensive line, but there's still some questions here with coaching at the linebacker, the cornerback, and then the overall game management. I think Coach Prime, I think this was a year where he's learned a lot of things. I think we'll see better game management next year. But that is stuff that we all need to see improvement from. We need to see improvement from all the coaches this next year if we're going to exceed those types of expectations.
Right. And let me also touch on something you said earlier. You made the statement of, well, if this player does this, if this player does that, then this is what we need to do to win 9 games. Okay. I rarely get into that conversation. And let me tell you why I don't get in that conversation. That's why I say the things that I said earlier. This is why I don't get in that conversation, because everybody you talk to that they play against say the exact same thing, bro. So, I mean, what does that mean? I mean, it just cancels out. If I'm talking to a Nebraska guy and I say, oh, well, come on, if he can beat a shutdown guy, guess what they're going to do? They're just going to say the same thing about their guy. Well, if this, you see what I'm saying? None of that means anything because everybody's doing the same thing. You follow what I'm saying? So you're just talking in circles at that point. So what you do, to me, I think it's better to go with what you see normally happens. How many years people been in the program, right? What kind of system they run and how they run in the system, right? Pick a type of philosophy and how they want to play the game. Everything I just said there, we can't speak on that for Colorado for the most part.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? All we want to do is, well, they got this guy looking at PFF grade. And let me just say this about PFF guys. Let me explain this to you. PFF is no different than regular stats. It's a tool people use to observe. One higher score does not mean that you are better than that player behind him. For example, do me a favor, look at edge rusher. We can go again. The first edge rusher that they think they're taking it off the field in the draft, his PFF score is like 30 slots below people above him. You feel
Travis
me?
Hunter is ranked like 200 something at corner.
So it's just a tool that can help you. And let me tell y'all something. I've even heard NFL players that don't even believe in that. Let's get that straight. So, but it's cool. It's a nice tool, whatever the case may be. But let's put it in this perspective, right? It's not the end all be all, nor is stats the end all be all. It's comprised. Another thing about that, if you look at the scores and rankings of a team, did you notice that they always got the weakest teams up there ranked higher with the players? You get sporadic.
No.
Pay attention to it next time. Like you had Texas States and these other,
Oh no. Give Raw here just another second. Mr. Moore is this question.
But you know what I'm saying, but anyway, but people who have like who we think play good defense, generally there's not very many players ranked very high on that thing. So and let everybody know, me and Dave, we do have access to PFF.
That's right. And I use it, man. How else am I supposed to get an idea of how well a guy blocked last year? You know, at least there's one statistic that can kind of point things out. Granted, it's not a perfect statistic. And I try and say that. I like how Dante's saying this, you know, as a CU fan or as a Bengals fan, let me tell you, CU got a steal with Sean Livingston, man, or Robert Livingston. Man, I sure hope so. Again, I feel like coaching. I'd say that this team was held back this year because of coaching and some of the decisions that went on. And again, I think if we're going to make that next leap, hopefully we have more consistent, better coaching. And I think to tie things up, Raw, I guess I'll say this. When I'm talking about certain players, hey, they're taking a leap or whatever, I think that it ties in. How I look at that is that it ties in to being coached well. I'm hoping these guys are getting coaching to where they're developing. We can't afford to have anything happen like last year in our offensive line where everybody regresses and they lose confidence. We cannot have that happen this year, and it's on coaching. It is on coaching to make sure that doesn't happen, regardless of how talented or not talented you think these guys are. The fact was that we had position groups where guys did not improve last year, and that's a serious thing that we need to correct. And I'm hoping Coach Prime corrects it this year. So I think that's just about all I got, Rod. Do you got any last words? I mean,
I know, man, it flew by. I think you summed it up. I mean, you know, saying when you said that, okay, I understand how you see it. It doesn't have anything to do with players concerning the record, right? And then you came right back with yours. You were saying that, you know, saying players and how they should need to improve to be better, right? And I think you kind of summed it up there. That's why I don't do it, because I don't use that as a term, because everybody says that. Absolutely everybody says that about them teams. So if everybody improved, you got the same thing you got last year.
Yes. Hey, and I want to comment on this one. Guys, this is a pure example of, for some reason, how I'm given the benefit of the doubt, where my man Raw is not. You can go look back at my videos over the summer. I was calling Javon Antonio Calvin Johnson too. So Sean, put me right there in the same category as Rawhide. Please don't take me seriously either. All I ask is for people to be consistent. Okay. Anybody that's calling from this past year that called us to win 6 games this year, none of them can be haters. Our over under was what, 3.5 wins, 4.5 wins,
8+,
3.5, right? Mm-hmm. So, hey, the DNVR was predicting 6 wins. There are a lot of other people that were predicting 6 wins then called haters. Okay. All I'm saying, man, is if Raw comp somebody and I do too to somebody and we're wrong, just group us in the same category, please. Let's just remain consistent, y'all. So, oh man, but this is funny. I guess Rob, before we go, let us know you got any interesting shows coming up later, and also, how are the cartoons going for you, man? I've
Oh
absolutely
my
been
God,
loving them.
bro. Oh my God. I had to drop one today trying to explain this pyramid deal. Maybe they'll listen to a cartoon character. But other than that, you know what I'm saying? Hey, it's all good, bro. You know what I'm saying? I got a show coming up. I think, yeah, here in the next hour or so, we'll open up the live Monday afternoon quarterbacking. So we'll tear it up on that. So everybody's welcome. If you're watching, you're welcome to come on and join. And we will be talking about we'll be grading.
Oh no, I'll let him come on and finish. Hopefully, he doesn't have that issue tonight.
I don't know. Okay, after I get this, we gotta get off this thing. This is just wearing me out.
Yeah.
But we'll be grading the university or the programs in the Big 12. So
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds great.
we'll
Well, this should hopefully add conversation or fire to the conversation. I appreciate you joining me last minute on this Raw. Always greatly appreciative of you. Your care package is coming next week, man. I'm excited.
Appreciate it, brother.
To
Appreciate
send it
it,
out
brother.
to you, man.
Appreciate it.
And chat, you guys were hilarious and fire as always. Always appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow. And as always, y'all, go Buffs.
Let's go, Buffs.
All
Bro.
right.